Hello everyone, welcome to my presentation about digital audio, which is mainly about CDs, as you can see from the title. Unfortunately, I caught cold these days, so there might be some coughing during my presentation. My apologies. I hope you don't mind and remember to stay safe. In my presentation, I will mainly cover four topics. The first and the second will be about the technologies behind the digital audio and the CDs. In the third topic, I will briefly introduce the history of CDs, and finally, I will present my thoughts about the CDs, which is my reflection. Okay, let's go to our first part, the digital sound. The graph on the right is an illustration of the Fourier transformation, which laid the very foundation of all technologies related to waves. We will get to it later. The first technology I'm going to talk about is the PCM, the pulse code modulation. Here is a graph about a sound card structure. We have three PCMs here, PCM0, PCM1, and PCM2. Each of them has a playback stream and a capture stream. The PCM has three work steps. First step, sampling, which the PCM takes in an original analog sound and get a wave like shown in the graph here. The second step, the PCM quantizes the wave into so many dots. So here we have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 16 dots in total. Keep that in mind. If we have enough dots, we could reproduce a wave without damaging the quality. Finally, the PCM will encode each dot. Each dot will be presented by a binary number, and the different dot might get the same number if they are on the same attitude. For example, the dot 4 and the dot 5 get the same number because they have the same attitude. This job is mainly done by the ADC, the encoding part, analog to digital converter. ADC will mark each node in the wave to its electrical voltage. The voltage allows us to reproduce the sound in a digital format. The use of PCM is to modify an analog signal suitably by the operation of sampling and quantization before it is fed to an ADC to be encoded and thereafter transmitted in a digital format. Okay, the human hearing range is from 20 Hz to 20,000 Hz, which is 20k Hz, meaning that if the frequency of sound is below 20 Hz or above 20,000 Hz, then we humans could not hear it at all. After all, we are not bats, even not the Dark Knight, the Batman. The frequency we use to record sound is 44.1 kHz, meaning that we record an excerpt of sound 44.1 thousand times every second. That is a whole lot of dots, isn't it? And 41,000 Hz is way much higher than the human's natural hearing range. So why we are going to use 44.1 kHz? Maybe the Nyquist-Shannon Sampling Theory could give us an answer. The story begins with a sine wave. According to Fourier transform, all kinds of wave can be transformed to be a combination of sine waves. In order to encode a sine wave, only 2 points are needed, but the problem is how to record those 2 points. Let's get into the Nyquist-Shannon. Talking about the frequency, then we have to talk about the Nyquist-Shannon Sampling Theory. Such a long name, huh? The theory is discovered by Shannon alone, but the foundation is given by Nyquist. To honor Nyquist's contribution to this theory, we put Nyquist's name in front of the Shannon Sampling Theory. In physics, the frequency is denoted by F, and the P means the time we needed to complete one period. Hence, we have a very simple negative relation here. Higher frequency means shorter period, or in the other way, shorter period means higher frequency. Okay, I'm going to use a clock as an example to illustrate how we get the Nyquist-Shannon sampling theory. the clock has t equals 60 minutes, which means that for the hour hand, it goes one round every 60 minutes, and the frequency equals to 1 divided by 60, I'm sorry. Assuming we now have an hour hand on the clock pointing to 12, just like this. If we record the sample every 60 minutes, which is exactly the period of the hour hand of the clock, then every time we take sampling, the hour hand is pointing to 12, which means that the hour hand is not moving at all. Okay, we as humans, we know that the hour hand just finished one circle and get right back to the origin, but the electrical, the electricity, the sample rate, they don't know. So how are we gonna find out that the sample is actually moving, that our hand is actually moving when we're taking the samples? Let's take a sample every 30 minutes, which decrease our p to 30 minutes and thus increase the frequency to 1 divided by 30, which is twice as the frequency of the clock. Now the sample will tell us the hour hand is pointing to 6 after 30 minutes. We are sure it is moving now. Hooray! But the problem is not solved, as we still do not know which direction of the hour hand is moving to. Is the hour hand moving clockwise or counterclockwise? I'm sorry. We don't know yet. How about we try shorting sample rate? 1 minute short is enough. Let's take a sample every 29 minutes. Aha! Now we could know that the hour hand is moving and moving clockwise. So some smart head might ask, if we take a sample every 61 minutes, which is 1 minute slower than the original period, will that work? The answer is definitely no. Taking a sample every 61 seconds will allow us to see the direction, but will not allow us to perfectly record the movement of the wave, which means that the wave we record will be severely distorted. The Nyquist-Shannon Sampling Theory indicates that we have to use a frequency twice as the frequency of the sound we would like to record in order to reproduce the sound without any distortion. Hence, to record any sound could be heard by human, we must use a frequency higher than the maximum of our natural hearing frequency, which is the 20 kHz. Then we have to use like 40 kHz, above 40 kHz, to record any sound that we want to keep it forever. Now we have the recording technologies ready. The new challenge is that what's the career of the newcomer, the digital sound? Sony and Philips presented their answers. The compact disc. A compact disc has 4 layers. The lowest layer, which is the A layer, stores the data. The layer B is a shiny layer that reflects laser, which will provide an ideal work environment for the E part, a laser beam that reads the information from the CD, like this. Oh, I'm sorry, like this. The laser will read everything from the data layer, the layer A, just like a needle reads a vinyl and produce sound, even more precisely than the needle in the vinyl. The C layer is meant to protect the 2 layers down below, and the top layer is meant to be the cover of the CD. Usually a picture of the album would be on the D layer. The CD has 3 advantages compared to the old carriers: the invulnerability, the capacity, and the quality. Invulnerability means that the CD is waterproofed, is scratch-proofed as well, and no wear down after each play. Unlike the traditional analog carriers, a CD will produce almost the same sound as the first time it is played, no matter how long it is stored and how many times it is played. The characteristic is from the CD's digital quality, as all the data in the CD is not stored physically but stored electrically. The high capacity of CD means that the CD could store more information than a vinyl, and thus allowing artists more time to show their masterpieces, which they would not like to be cut off because of the insufficiency of time. When the first generation of CDs come out, it usually have 650 megabytes, which allow the CD to store 74 minutes of music. The story behind the number 74 is about Sony and Beethoven. In order to record Beethoven's masterpiece, the Ninth Symphony, without any interruption, which has the longest version of 74 minutes of playing by the German player William Furtwängler? No matter what, by the German player Wilhelm. Sony decided to make any CDs capable of recording 74 minutes of music, a huge advance comparing to the capacity of a vinyl, which is about 22 minutes per side and 44 minutes in total, combining the two sides. The quality is also improved. No need to mention the sound quality improved by the CDs. I want to mainly talk about the dynamic range that is improved by the CD. A typical physical recording of the sound has 60 to 70 dB of dynamic range. Traditional music producers like this range and thought it is enough. The CD, on the other hand, enables 94 dB of dynamic range, which is a huge advantage for musicians to use CDs to carry their musics. Please enjoy the song created by Dire Straits, the song called Brother in Arms. Let's feel the power of dynamic range.
These mist-covered mountains are a home now for me, but my home is the lowlands, and always will be. Someday you'll return to your valleys and your farms, and you'll no longer burn to be brothers in through these fields of destruction, baptisms of fire, I've witnessed your suffering as the battle reached high, and though it hurt me so bad, in the fear and alarm, you did not desert me, my brothers in arms. There's so many different worlds, so many different suns, and we have just one world, but we live in different ones. sun's gone to hell, the moon's riding high. Let me bid you farewell. Every man has to die, but it's written in the starlight, in every line in your palm. We're fools to make war on our brothers in arms.
The song Brother in Arms has the peak dB of dynamic range at minus 4.95 and lowest at minus 24.21 dB of dynamic range. Such dynamic range is really wide, which is as twice as the Beatles' famous song Hey Jude. In the next part, I will talk about the rise and the fall of CD, which is in a blink of eyes. It started at 1982 and declined to bottom at 2001. About a score of years, the CD went up and fell down. In 1982, the first CD player met the world, the Sony CDP-101. 3 years later, the album Brother in Arms by Dire Straits sold 1 million CD copies. In 1988, the sale of CD copies first time outnumbered the sale of vinyl copies. In 1992, the sale of CD is now $1 billion and the average price is $14. In the future days, with the invention like ADAT and DA88, two machines that used to record multiple track music in digital tape, the price of digital music kept getting lower. The sale of CD topped at 2000, which is about $2.5 billion. However, in the next year, the iPod and downloadable music crushed the dream of CD. The CD industry kept failing and finally became a history. In nowadays, as vinyl is still active in the market, CD and digital tape had already lost their positions. From my perspective, CD and digital tape are in a very awkward situation, and their fading away are absolutely reasonable and predictable. Comparing to nowadays downloadable music, CD had disadvantages in convenience and price. The price for downloading music is almost free comparing to buy a CD. Maybe I should include a CD player as well. And we can listen to a downloadable music wherever we want. Comparing to a vinyl, CD lacks the feeling of tangibility. Just like Mark Kurtz wrote in his book Capturing the Sound, the vinyl could provide a tangibility of holding the music actually in one's hand. One could feel the floating of music when one touched the groove on the vinyl. Even though vinyl is more expensive, it's hard to keep, it's not convenient comparing to CD, but the tangibility makes vinyl be appreciated by the consumers. CD, in the middle of the vinyl and the downloadable music, it had to fade away. The dynamic range, DR, is the CD's edge, but it is not fully appreciated by neither the producers of music nor the consumers of the music. What is a dynamic range? Assuming we have three parts of sound, negative 2 dB, negative 4 dB, and negative 6 dB. Keep that in mind. Max of the dB is 0. The DR is given by the highest dB minus the lowest dB, which is negative 2 minus the negative 6, result in a 4 dB of dynamic range. However, in order to make a consumer to love the music, loudness is crucial for today's music. Publishers of music are going to increase the loudness as much as they could, so the given sound of the music will be increased proportionally, result in minus 1 dB, minus 2 dB, and minus 3 dB. Even though the loudness is increased, the dynamic range is decreased to the dynamic range now is minus 1 minus 3, which would result in 2 dB of dynamic range. This approach to make the consumers to love the music is at the price of sacrificing the dynamic range. As the dynamic range is not considered as an important part of the music, CD lost its attraction to the producers and to the consumers, so it had gradually faded away. As you can see here, the Brother in Arms, produced in 1985 with the help of CD, have a very high dynamic range. However, the sound we produce today, or the sound we produced before the invention of CD, had a much less dynamic range. You can see the sound produced by Beatles, even though the dynamic range is still higher than nowadays music, but it is still lower than the dynamic range of Dire Straits' Brother in Arms. And here you can see the sound produced by Taylor Swift, by Katy Perry, or even by Avril. Their dynamic range is really low because they have to increase the loudness of their music in order to attract the consumers. As a 19 years old boy, my taste grew up in a music world that pursues loudness, which implies the short-term affection, and gives up the dynamic range, which increases the music quality in the long run. I do not know if it is good for the whole music industry, but I do feel sorry that we give such a valuable quality away. This is my presentation about the digital audio and the CDs. I hope you enjoy it. I will see you next time. Thank you.